That's a good looking crust. What's up everybody, it's Drew Wilkins with Swine Bovine Barbecue, and in this video, we're making a tri-tip with some homemade chimichurri. Let's get going. We have ourselves a fantastic looking tri-tip. Picked this up from Central Market here in Dallas. It is a great looking cut, and like I usually do with a steak or a somewhat bigger piece of meat, I'm going to season this the day before I cook it. Seasoning it overnight is simply a dry brine. It's going to allow the salt to diffuse into the meat. And simply enough, we're going to go on with some Diamond Crystal kosher salt. And this is dry brining the meat. So you've heard of a wet brine. You put it in a water solution, typically with some salt, sometimes some, or always with some salt, but sometimes with some sugar as well. But this is a dry brine. If you've watched any of my videos, this isn't a surprise to you. You've heard me talk about this before. But what we're doing is coating the meat with salt. And this will allow the salt to penetrate the meat. It'll draw some moisture out of it at first, and then it'll all get absorbed back in. The salt will penetrate the meat, season it throughout, and we'll be left with a piece of meat that's seasoned not just on the surface, but throughout. And it'll allow us to get a great crust when we grill this sucker tomorrow. So we're gonna put this in the fridge overnight. Just let it hang out on this wire rack. As mentioned, that salt is gonna diffuse into the meat. We're gonna have flavor throughout, and we're gonna get a great crust because of it. But this is gonna go in the fridge. We'll see you tomorrow. It is the following day, and our tri-tip is looking incredible. I love the deep color red it gets when you do a salt brine. That salt is nowhere to be seen on the surface. It's diffused into the meat, seasoned throughout. So this is gonna go hang out inside. Let it come up to room temp for a bit. While it's doing that, let's make a chimichurri. For our chimichurri, we're gonna go with equal parts flat leaf parsley. I just tear it off. If you wanna go in and get all the stems out, that's fine. And then equal part cilantro. Then just give it a rough chop. You can make it as minced or as chunky as you want it. I like it fairly minced. This is about the consistency I like for the parsley and cilantro. Scoop it up, put it in a bowl. Then we're gonna mince up 2 Fresno peppers. If you don't like it hot, only add 1, or you can just add red chili flake. But I like it spicy, so I'm going in with 2. You can also omit the seeds if you don't want it to be terribly spicy, and you still want the flavor of a fresh pepper versus just some crushed red pepper. But spoiler alert, we're gonna be adding crushed red pepper too. So I like the flavor of both. Scoop them up, put them in a bowl. And the last thing we need our knife skills for is a clove of garlic. So we're just gonna smash this up, get rid of the peel. Much like everything else, we're just gonna go in with a nice mince on this. And be careful, you don't wanna add too much fresh garlic. I have made that mistake before and been in a car with people after making something for lunch. Got a little indigestion, had to burp, wasn't pretty. Almost cleared the car out. So scoop up our garlic, put it in a bowl. Now everything that needed to be chopped is in there. Now we're just gonna add some spices, oils, and vinegars. So first, we're gonna go in with a little bit of oregano and some freshly cracked black pepper, a little crushed red pepper, healthy pinch kosher salt, some red wine vinegar, and then just gonna top it off with some extra virgin olive oil. Give it a stir, see what our consistency is. We want a little more oil than that, so we're just gonna add a touch more and give it another stir. Let's give it a try. Yeah, don't skimp on this. The vinegar that you get, nice little tang along with the olive oil and the parsley and the cilantro, marries really well together. It's not overly spicy despite the fact that I put crushed red pepper and 2 Fresno peppers in there as well. Everything marries together so well. Don't skip on this, make it. I want to call out something real quick on the tri-tip before we cook it, and that's the grain structure. As you can see, it flows almost at a little bit of an arc, so pretty parallel or horizontal on this side, the skinnier side of the tri-tip. Once we get to the thicker side, it goes more nearly horizontal. So we'll have to keep that in mind when we're slicing up this meat. That way we're always going against the grain and producing the most tender bite possible. You don't want to be chewing on something stringy that you sliced with the grain. It's the easiest way you can make meat tender is slicing it against the grain. Our coals are fired, threw a little log on just for some extra flavor. So let's get this tri-tip on. New recording angle for me, but we're gonna let this tri-tip cook for however long it takes. One of the cool things about this mil-scale yakitori is you can look underneath and see how it's progressing. Is it getting too dark, or how's the crust looking? Once it looks good, we'll flip it. Might flip it a couple of times, who knows, but it's one of the cool things about this grill. But if you don't have a yakitori, I would recommend a dual zone cooking. So if you've got a Weber kettle or a PK or anything like that, set up one area where your charcoal is, and then an indirect one, because this is a little bit bigger of a piece of meat, and if you're going directly over coals the whole time without a movable grate system like this yakitori has, it's likely to get too charred up or possibly even a little burnt, especially if you go with a rub that's more complex than just the salt that we used on this. Reverse sear is also a great option for a piece of meat like tri-tip. This little pointy end is gonna be more done than dead center. It's just a matter of the fact of the way things are gonna work. So works well if you got multiple people that wanna have different doneness in their meat, but you can avoid that if you do a reverse sear or sous vide or something like that. It's much easier to control it than it is in a situation like this, but we're going for a medium rare. We're gonna let it cook. We are starting to get a beautiful crust on this tri-tip. I did move the grate one rung down, and as you can see, this area right here is significantly thinner than the rest of the meat. So what I'm gonna do now is we're gonna flip it, let this other side start to get some crust, and we're gonna angle it this way. If you can see on the fire, it's gonna be a little less over that thinner part now and more so over the thicker part of this tri-tip. So that's the reason for doing that. We're just gonna continue to let it cook. We are reading about 123 right in the thickest part of this tri-tip, so I'm gonna pull it for a little bit. Got some good color on this underside too. Missing a little bit over here on the thin, which was kind of the point, no biggie. But we're gonna set this off to the side, lower this grate down, let it cool down for just a little bit, and then we're gonna sear some of these sides that we weren't able to get to, particularly right there, prior to it getting to temp. Tri-tip had a nice rest. Now we're gonna finish the sear. Put it on the lowest level of this mil-scale yakitori, and we're just gonna let it cook maybe 30 seconds each side. And then over on this side, especially where it didn't get much of a sear. That's a good looking crust. Now we're just gonna hit it on this side for a bit, and then we're done. This piece of meat's ready to slice into. We didn't have to hardly rest it at all because we did that prior to re-searing it. So I know we talked a little bit about reverse searing. It's essentially what we almost did here. So let's cut into this, see how we did. Just for reference, right in this thickest spot right here, highest temp was around 136. So should be a little over medium rare. I like it a little more rare than that, but it is what it is. So let's see how it looks. So again, we want to follow this grain, so we're going to go a little bit of an angle here. Definitely more cooked on the outside. We're starting to see the color come through a little bit on the middle. So yeah, this is definitely more medium than medium rare. Was hoping for a medium rare cut. We've got more doneness on the outside. We've got a fantastic crust. So let's make some more slices off this sucker. Definitely not lacking moisture. We've got ourselves a juicy tri-tip. We'll fan this out. Let's hit it with some of our chimichurri. We're just gonna go right over the top with it here. Let's dig in. The wait is over and it is time to dig in to this tri-tip. The crust on the outside feels incredible. It's more medium than medium rare. I'll wear it, it'll still eat. Cheers. There is nothing not to like about that. It has a nice beefy flavor. And we just seasoned it with salt. That's all we did to it. We didn't put any pepper, garlic, anything. And of course, if you don't do a chimichurri, you can slice it and then do some fresh cracked pepper or garlic or baste it in butter. Do whatever you want. But we have garlic and pepper and all sorts of other things in our chimichurri, so that's why we didn't add anything to it. And frankly, I've just gotten to the point these days where I love a dry brine steak. The crust you get on top of it seasons the meat throughout, has a phenomenal flavor, and you can always add things after the fact to make it taste great. I can't stop eating this thing. Don't sleep on chimichurri. It's got a fantastic flavor. The heat as it's set in the oil and in the vinegar for a little bit has come through, but not much. It's just kind of a subtle back end heat, letting you know that some spice is there, but it's not overly prevalent. So don't be afraid to use a Fresno pepper or two, like I did, if you want, and add some crushed red pepper flake. But really the acidity plus the fat from the oil, you combine that with a steak cooked over charcoal and wood, or a tri-tip cooked over charcoal and wood. It's phenomenal. That's gonna do it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any comments or suggestions about what I could have done differently here or what you want to see me cook next, please leave it in the comments below. And if you want to see more videos like this, please hit that subscribe button. But as always, thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.